Okay, let's dive in. Have you ever heard terms like cloud migration and cloud transformation thrown around, maybe even uh, used interchangeably?
Oh, all the time.
It happens constantly in tech conversations, and honestly, it can be a little confusing. You sort of get the gist, but there's this nagging feeling,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe they aren't exactly the same thing.
And that feeling is absolutely spot on. According to the source we're digging into for this deep dive, it's a really insightful piece by IT exec Jay Tillotson. These two terms, they describe fundamentally different journeys.
Uh-huh.
They have distinct goals, totally different approaches, and they lead to very different outcomes for an organization's future.
So treating them the same isn't just slightly off. It's like missing a crucial strategic distinction.
Exactly.
Our mission today, then, guided by this expert perspective, is to really unpack what separates cloud migration from cloud transformation. We want to get clear on what each one actually involves, why the difference matters strategically, and help you understand which path an organization is truly on, or maybe which path it should be considering.
Because ultimately, it's about making informed decisions. Decisions that go way beyond just moving technology around. It's really about shaping the future capability and, well, the competitiveness of the business itself.
Absolutely. So let's start by setting the stage a bit. The source points out that this confusion, using the terms like synonyms, it's pretty widespread.
It really is. And the article argues quite strongly, actually, that this lack of clarity is a genuine problem. Why? Because migration and transformation aren't just, different levels of the same thing.
Right.
They are distinct journeys. They lead to different levels of business agility, different competitive positions, and they unlock totally different kinds of long-term value.
Meaning, if you think you're doing one, but you're actually doing the other,
Mm.
or maybe you're aiming for transformation, but only really executing a migration,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to hit your real goals.
Exactly right. Understanding this difference is just critical for anyone involved in those big strategic technology decisions.
All right, let's break down the first one then. Cloud migration.
Yeah.
What is that really when you strip it down to its core?
Okay, so think of cloud migration primarily as relocation. It's basically the process of moving your digital assets. That means applications, data, IT resources.
Your stuff.
Yeah, your stuff. Moving it from where it currently lives, typically, on-premises data centers, into a cloud environment.
So it's like moving your things from building A to building B, and building B happens to be the cloud.
Precisely. The main objective generally is to get your existing systems up and running in the cloud, but with minimal changes. This is what people often call lift and shift.
Lift and shift, right. Heard that one.
You lift the application or the workload pretty much as it is from one infrastructure, and you just shift it onto the cloud infrastructure.
Okay, that makes perfect sense as a starting point. Why do organizations usually choose this path? What are the immediate benefits or, like, the drivers?
Well, the source points to several key reasons. Often, it's driven by a need for some quick wins.
Quick wins, okay.
Maybe they want to cut down on infrastructure costs or operational costs tied to running those physical data centers. They might be looking for better scalability, more reliability,
Makes sense.
improved disaster recovery options, or maybe just needing to modernize some really old hardware without doing a massive development overhaul.
Right.
Sometimes it's even forced by external things like, their data center lease is about to expire.
Gotcha. So it's often about improving the efficiency and maybe the resilience of what you already have?
Yes, exactly. It's about using that cloud infrastructure for things like cost savings, better uptime, basic scalability benefits, and often doing it on a faster timeline.
And what does that look like in practice?
Hmm.
The source gave an example, didn't it?
It did, yeah. A healthcare provider, they were facing a data center closure. They migrated about 125 applications to AWS.
Wow.
And the key insight here is that they did get improved scalability and cost efficiency, but without fundamentally changing how those applications were built or how the underlying business processes actually worked.
Ah,
That's a very clear example of a successful migration, focused on the relocation and those infrastructure benefits.
okay, that feels pretty concrete. Now let's pivot to cloud transformation.
Okay.
This one sounds like it's operating at a completely different level.
It absolutely is. Cloud transformation is, well, it's a much broader, more strategic undertaking. It's not just about where the applications live anymore.
Right.
It's about fundamentally changing how the organization operates, how it develops software, and how it delivers value, specifically using cloud capabilities.
So if migration is moving the house, transformation is more like rethinking your entire lifestyle and then building a custom smart home specifically designed to enable that new way of living.
That's Actually,
Yeah,
yeah, that's much closer to the mark. Transformation involves significant re-architecting of applications, really thinking cloud native from the ground up.
cloud native. Okay.
It means re-engineering core business processes to take advantage of things like automation, data, new cloud services. And it often requires a real shift in the organizational culture and the skills people have.
So the goal isn't just running the old things more efficiently, but enabling totally new capabilities.
Precisely. You're aiming to fully exploit the unique features of the cloud, things like serverless computing, microservices, advanced analytics, machine learning, integrated DevOps
All
pipelines.
the buzzwords, but they mean something here.
They do. The
Yeah.
goal is to create a truly cloud-native IT environment.
And what does that actually enable for the business? What kind of outcomes are we talking about with real transformation?
So the source highlights outcomes like significantly faster innovation cycles,
Yeah.
getting new products or features to market much quicker.
Right. Speed.
Enhanced agility so you can respond rapidly to market shifts, real cost optimization that goes beyond just saving on servers achieved through elastic scaling and, pay-as-you-go models.
Mm.
Improved collaboration and productivity across teams, and often, actually, a stronger security posture built on modern cloud frameworks. It's really about becoming a fundamentally more dynamic and capable organization.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but I'm guessing it's also significantly more challenging than a simple migration.
Oh, definitely. The source is very clear on this. Transformation is inherently more complex. It carries higher risks, particularly those organizational and cultural risks, compared to a straight migration.
What does that extra complexity involve? What are we talking about?
Well, it requires rethinking fundamental business processes, not just tweaking IT stuff.
Okay.
It demands a significant investment in upskilling your workforce, changing how people work, adapting operating models. It's really a strategic initiative that impacts the entire enterprise, not just the IT department.
Right. It's not just tech.
Yeah.
Do we have a real-world example of this deeper kind of transformation?
Yes, the source uses Capital One as a prime example. They didn't just, move their data centers to the cloud.
No lift and shift there.
Not really, no. They systematically decommissioned their physical data centers and rebuilt their IT operations as a cloud-native environment. This wasn't about just moving old stuff. It was about fundamentally transforming their tech stack and their operations
Why? What was the goal?
to enhance innovation, boost security, improve compliance capabilities in ways that just weren't possible before in their old setup.
That Capital One story really highlights the difference, doesn't it? One is optimizing the old way in a new place. The other is building a completely new way because of the new place.
Exactly. And this is why the distinction is so strategic, not just, technical jargon flying around.
Yeah.
For C-suite leaders, for board members, understanding which journey the company is actually on, that determines the potential ROI and the real strategic impact of any cloud investment.
So if you invest a ton in migration, but you're expecting transformation level outcomes, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Absolutely. A successful migration gets you into the cloud. It offers benefits like cost reduction, maybe better scalability. But if you stop there,
Yeah.
without transforming your applications and your processes to really leverage those cloud-native capabilities, you leave a huge amount of potential value just sitting on the table. Untap.
It's like you've moved into that smart home we talked about, but you're not using the automation, the integrated systems, the data analytics.
Precisely. You're missing the intelligence built into the platform. Transformation, on the other hand, that positions the business for sustained innovation, maybe even disruptive growth. But,
Big but.
big but, it requires a much larger, more holistic investment in the tech, sure, but also in people and in the company culture.
It demands buy-in and real change across the entire organization, not just one department.
It really does. And it's crucial to note, as the source points out, these aren't always like mutually exclusive paths taken in total isolation.
Oh, interesting.
Many organizations actually start with a strategic migration, maybe get those initial benefits, especially if they're under time pressure, like that data center lease expiring.
Yeah.
And then they follow up with transformation efforts to unlock that deeper value over time. Migration can absolutely be a necessary first phase on the way to transformation.
So migration can be like the foot in the door that enables the bigger transformation later on.
Often, yes. It gets you onto the cloud platform itself, which is kind of a prerequisite for adopting those cloud-native services and really re-architecting your applications properly.
Okay. Let's look at a couple more examples from the source, just to see this play out in the real world. Beyond Capital One and the healthcare provider, what else sort of illustrates these different journeys?
Well, the source mentions Microsoft's own move to Azure. their internal migration.
Eating their own dog food, so to speak.
Exactly. And while it involved migrating massive workloads, it was also coupled with a fundamental rethinking of their operational models. They did rigorous cost optimization, pruning unused resources.
Nutting the fat.
Yeah, and a significant mindset shift across their engineering teams. So this wasn't just a simple lift and shift. It actually incorporated elements of transformation right alongside the migration. And the result was substantial savings and increased agility and security.
That's a great point. Even a migration can be done with a more transformative mindset that goes beyond just moving the bits and bytes around.
Absolutely. Then there's another example from Accenture's federal practice. This one highlights a super rapid migration driven by a really tight deadline. They had 6 months to exit a data center.
Wow, 6 months. That's fast.
Extremely fast. They focused on quickly migrating core financial systems. But even under that immense pressure, they also invested in workforce reskilling and developing new cloud operating models alongside the tech move.
Interesting.
So it shows how even a forced, urgent migration can sometimes become a catalyst for necessary organizational changes that definitely lean towards transformation.
So pressure can sometimes force the issue, accelerate the adoption of new skills and ways of working, even if the initial goal is just pure speed.
It can definitely force the issue on those critical elements like people and process. And the source also points to some big industry leaders like Walmart, Cleveland Clinic, and GE.
Okay, big names.
Right. And these companies use cloud transformations specifically to achieve truly significant business outcomes. Walmart unlocked entirely new business models. Cleveland Clinic used advanced cloud capabilities to improve patient care. GE enabled real-time industrial analytics that just wasn't possible with their old infrastructure.
See, those aren't just IT improvements. Those are fundamental shifts in how the business operates and creates value.
Exactly. Those examples really hammer home the sheer potential of aiming for transformation. But as we said, it sounds like a pretty challenging path. What are some of the common hurdles organizations tend to face on either of these journeys, migration or transformation?
Good question. Because it's not all easy, right?
Definitely not. The source outlines several key challenges. Number one is often legacy systems,
The old stuff.
the old stuff. It's frequently the biggest obstacle. These systems are often complex, maybe poorly documented, deeply integrated into everything else.
Spaghetti code.
Pretty much makes them really difficult to migrate or re-architect. Deciding whether to just lift and shift them, try to refactor them, or completely replace them requires a really thorough assessment up front.
You can't just pick up a 100-year-old building foundation and move it easily, can you?
Exactly. Security and compliance are also constant concerns. Always. Moving to the cloud means you have to implement robust security controls and maintain compliance in a very different environment than your on-prem setup.
That takes new skills.
It absolutely requires new expertise. And costs.
So-
Costs can get out of control pretty quickly if you're not careful in the cloud.
Heard stories about that.
Yeah. Cloud cost management, it requires vigilance. You need the right tools, optimization practices, and really fostering a cost-conscious culture. It can be unpredictable if it's not actively managed. And finally, perhaps the most significant hurdle, especially when you're talking transformation, is change management.
The people side.
The people side, exactly. This involves getting people comfortable with totally new ways of working, investing heavily in training and reskilling, and making sure all your stakeholders across the business are aligned and bought in. It's fundamentally a human challenge, more than a technical one sometimes.
So bringing it back to you, the listener, maybe thinking about your own company, how do you figure out which path, migration or transformation, is the right strategic choice for your organization?
Well, the source provides a pretty good framework based on your specific context. What are your business objectives? What's your appetite for risk? What resources do you actually have available? And what's your long-term vision for the company?
It really boils down to that core question the article poses, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Is your main goal simply to modernize your infrastructure, maybe achieve some immediate cost savings or resilience improvements?
Option A.
Option A, or is it to fundamentally reinvent how your organization delivers value, how it innovates, and how it competes in this digital age?
Option B. Much bigger scope.
Totally different scope. That framing really clarifies the stakes, I think.
It does.
So if speed to cost reduction or maybe addressing urgent infrastructure needs, if that's the primary driver, migration might be the necessary and frankly sufficient step for right now.
Makes sense.
But If the ambition is truly to outpace your competitors, create new digital revenue streams, build a really agile, future-ready organization, then transformation is the ultimate goal. That's what unlocks that kind of potential.
And remembering, as you said, that often the journey starts with migration, but the lasting competitive advantage that's built through the transformation that hopefully follows, leveraging the cloud's full power.
Right. The cloud platform is the enabler, the foundation,
Right.
but transformation is the strategy that really capitalizes on it.
This has been incredibly helpful, really cutting through some of that common confusion. Our source, Jay Tillotson, really makes a compelling case that, the cloud isn't just a destination you arrive at.
Hmm.
It's a powerful catalyst for reinvention. And the choice between migration and transformation, it's clearly not just some IT project decision. It's a fundamental strategic choice about your organization's future capabilities.
It absolutely demands clear vision, deliberate planning to make sure that the technology investment truly serves the business's highest aspirations, not just moving boxes.
Right. So here's something maybe to ponder as you go forward. Knowing this clear distinction now between cloud migration and cloud transformation, how does that change how you might evaluate technology initiatives at your own organization?
Yeah, good question.
Are projects being framed correctly? Are you calling something transformation when it's really just migration? And maybe what previously unseen potential could be unlocked if you consciously aim for transformation after you've successfully completed a migration phase. Think about those strategic implications.